is really, I mean, is doable. You can cheat bricks. It's not hard to do. If you're being intellectually honest, if you really are trying to be, empirical and get a baseline and see where things are moving, it's a valuable tool. There's no battery in this thing, right? If you go on to, Amazon or one of those things on the internet, you can find these things for like $25, right? You can use it 10,000 times.
Okay, so what's the best time to take a reading then?
Getting there. There's so many good questions here. Depends on whether you want to impress people or you want to be honest with yourself. If you want to impress people, you do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you want to be honest with yourself, you do it at 7 o'clock in the morning. The bricks should be lowest in the morning because all day long the plant is going through photosynthesis and making sugar, and all night long those sugars are being dropped into the soil. So a lot of the nutrients should be dropped into the soil at night, and if they're not, that means that the carbohydrate transport down to the roots is not functioning. Boron facilitates carbohydrate transport down to the roots and nutrients up to the leaves. What's that?
Was getting a 16% rating.
Straight out of boron deficiency.
If it's straight, you've got a boron deficiency. I call this constipation. I call it constipation.
Are there other minerals that would be out of whack that would inhibit this boron pathway too? Like, it's not just boron if it's black, right? It's not only possible boron.
I've seen one already,
Right? Yeah. That's
This, I mean,
a really good guess.
It's a really good guess.
Sorry, Clay, so this from there.
there's all kinds of things that could be going on. Basically, what I've got here are rules of thumb that I've learned from people who know more than I do. And they've tried this out, and they speak fairly confidently. So I'm simply conveying words from the elders. Go somewhere else.
leaves and see how it goes. For years and all that.
You can use 20 Multein borax.
We use that.
20 Multein borax. If you can get it for cheap, absolutely. Yep. I use boric acid or Solubor, which I can usually get for 60 or so bucks for a 50-pound bag, and it's twice as concentrated as borax. There's twice as much boron in there's a bunch of conversations going on around here. People got really excited and started talking about bricks.
Yep.
Either that or they needed a break.
Having looked at that, would you consider that a fuzzy line or a clear line?
I would say that's not a clear line. It's more fuzzy than clear. Yeah, when you've got a clear line, it's really clear. There's it's almost like a straight line.
And that's what
You got one there?
No, not fuzzy.
You do not want a clear line. You want a fuzzy line. A clear line generally connotes simpler compounds, and a fuzzy compound connotes complex compounds. The bigger the compound, the more fractal the structure, the more broadly the light is refracted. The simpler the compound, the less the light is refracted, the more simple the angle of bend is.
What a nitrate is. A
A nitrate is a simple compound. Sugar is a simple compound.
7.5 on between.
So, in general, just to keep going here on the bricks,
Amino acids are fuzzy.
they're more simple than protein.
Protein
Protein would be complex,
and the fats.
be more complex.
Hey,
Yes.
what's your experience been with rain? Say you walk out on the morning, 7 a.m., and you had an inch of rain overnight. Would you
Yeah.
expect conductivity to change, bricks to change a lot?
So conductivity. So a couple points here I want to make from this that I haven't said yet that I usually like to say. When it rains, people know about leaching, right? So nutrients, soluble nutrients in solution will leach when it rains. When it's cloudy and rainy for a while, and a lot of nutrients leach out, that's a symptom. It's a common situation. We'll get into a weather pattern where it'll be cloudy and rainy. When it's cloudy, there's no sun. When there's no sun, photosynthesis doesn't happen very much. When photosynthesis doesn't happen very much, there's not much food for the soil life. When it's raining, what nutrients are available are being leached out. So if you had a situation where you had all of your nutrition being leached out of your system, too much fluid running through your system, all your nutrients being leached out, what would you call that if you were a human? I'd call it diarrhea. A bad case would be called giardia, or there's other words for it, right? Dysentery. How many thousand people die a year because of a bad case of diarrhea? Tens of thousands, if not more. Hundreds of thousands. right? I mean, somebody a few years ago realized that what happens when you have a bad case of diarrhea is all your nutrients are being leached out of your system, and they figured a 10-cent packet that can save children's lives. You know what's in it? Sugar and salt. Salt and sugar will maintain electrolytes, which will keep the system going when otherwise it'd be leached out. So therefore, if it's cloudy and rainy and the electrolytes are being leached out of the system, what could you use to keep things going until the system gets back into gear?
Sugar and salt.
Sugar and salt. A little bit of molasses, a little bit of seawater. A little bit of molasses, a little bit of seawater is a wonderful prophylactic during a time when it's cloudy and rainy for too long. In 2009, when late blight came through, it was a cloudy, rainy, cold spring. It just would not stop being cloudy and rainy, and the plants were getting sick because they were hungry. They were hitting puberty, they were getting pregnant, and they weren't getting fed. What happens when you got a pregnant teenager who's not getting fed? Nothing pretty. Nothing pretty happens. So what do? You feed the mother. You keep her alive until the weather changes. That's all we did. Sugar, molasses, and seawater, we literally watered them into the row, and we didn't get blight. Right? It's so simple.
Try different types of sugars or?
We just used molasses, and I think we had some straight up sugar too. I got a 5-pound box of white sugar, 5-pound bag of white sugar.
Use liquid molasses or the dry?
Either one.
Yeah.
The dried I went ahead and bought because I
Yeah.
had so much trouble with this whole liquid molasses thing.
Yeah.
I had the biggest mess.
If you can buy organic sugar,
You
organic
can
cane
buy
sugar, organic molasses,
Molasses, dried molasses for cow feed.
you can buy organic molasses for human feed.
Some of them has propionic acid in it though.
It
You can get straight up.
Just check the label.
In cases like this, I don't get bothered with details. Personally, we buy a 50-pound bag of, organic cane sugar, and it sits in the box, and we use it over the next 2 years. You can pull a pound or two out of that and put it in a bucket of water and put it through your irrigation system, and you've got sugar in the system. You take some, a handful of sea salt, and you put it in that bucket of water with the salt, with the sugar, and you put it into the system, water it into the system, and you keep your plants alive and flourishing in a cold, cloudy, rainy 2-3 weeks when everybody else's plants are crashing and burning.
Could you foliar feed that?
What's that?
Could you foliar feed it?
You could foliar feed it, but the issue is the conductivity in the soil is low.
Okay.
And you can put much less into the system through the foliar than you can put through the irrigation system. I like to say if your conductivity is low, the issue's in the soil. If the bricks is low, on the leaf. Right? If your conductivity is low, you're not going to get high bricks. So you need to make sure you got good conductivity in the soil before you even bother yourself with a refractometer reading. Practically.
Molasses is a lot easier if you start it in hot water.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have a question?
Yeah, look.
You could do a quart to a gallon of molasses per acre. 1 to 5 pounds of sugar. Depending on the seawater, if you've got a conductivity meter, that's helpful because then you can see you're getting the conductivity really from the salt. But you could put down, 10 gallons of salt water at least on an acre, if not more. But you use your conductivity meter, stick it in the ground. If your conductivity is 30, and you put down 10 gallons of seawater on the acre, and it goes up to 50, then you could probably put a bunch more. Look at your soil tests in the past and see where your sodium levels are. If your sodium levels are really low anyways, feel free to overdose it. A little bit of salt water goes a long way. It's really quite exciting, and there's a whole bunch of it available, or almost next to nothing. People know about salt water. Talk
So
about it
1 to
already.
5 pounds of sugar per acre, 10 gallons of salt water per acre.
Is a really
Sorry.
conservative, it's a conservative baseline. You're not going to fry anything with that kind of application rate
1 to 5 pounds of sugar, right?
of sugar. Yes.
And
How
how much
about
more?
dead sea salt?
I've heard that it is, what did you say it was?
It's
Magnesium chloride?
Quart of molasses.
Quart?
If you need magnesium, you need chlorine. We have everything we need available in all kinds of different forms. And if it comes to you, here's the thing, right? Something comes to you, you feel like, I don't know why I keep thinking about this. Maybe they're telling you.
Yep.
Don't ask somebody else.
Right.
If it keeps coming to you, trust that it's coming to you. Don't doubt yourself. people who get these connections are also like they've been just over their lifetimes they've been told they're wrong and they've been told to shut up and all kinds of other horrible things, and they don't trust themselves. And these are the people that we would have called, the shamans in previous generations. Those people who have that direct connection were the ones that were honored deeply and respected in other cultures. Those are the ones that we make fun of and we lock up in mental institutions now. Literally. Right? People that hear voices, that hear the plants talking to them. Right? I mean, you are officially SSI for the rest of your life. Social Security, right? You are considered to be crazy if you said you heard the plants talk to you once in front of a psychologist. You are legitimately eligible for SSI for the rest of your life. You are crazy. You cannot function in this society. That is the law, right? That's the law. That's the way the system is working. Sorry, I go on rants every now and then.
It's actually true.
It's ridiculous.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a really good plan. Somebody told me this one 15 years ago, and I was like, $600 a month. I don't know. That's thin. That's a little
How
thin.
about if they make you take medication if you're in
Well,
the
then,
program?
yeah.
Yeah, or going to the
All right, may I proceed? We have an hour and a half till we're done, and we're on page 5. Just saying.
There was another
If you're in a crisis situation, like everybody else's plants are getting sick and it's been raining for a while, you put it on, then test, and put it on, then test in real time. In general, a weekly basis would be a good time to be monitoring.
I just want to say, give me that formula again for the
Which
molasses
one?
and the water.
I hate giving
I'm
formulas.
sorry.
It's not about formulas. Ask your plants how much they want.
Can you tell me how you would typically put
It's
it
a
in
quart,
there?
it's a quart per gallon.
A quart to a gallon of
One quart
molasses,
of
between a quart
molasses.
and a gallon of molasses per acre, I said.
Oh, I thought you said
Do
you
you
put a
mix
quart
the
in a gallon.
molasses with something when you're
Water.
just water?
I got
A quart to a gallon of molasses per acre, or a pound to 5 pounds of sugar per acre will give you the sugar in the salt and sugar piece. I said 10 gallons of seawater per acre will give you the salt piece in the salt and sugar piece.
10 gallons of,
Per acre.
You put the two together, and the molasses buffers the salt.
and the seawater we put in 2.
If you put too much molasses down, it'll stimulate the soil life and they'll eat your plant roots. All things in moderation.
it'll drive your soil.
If you put too much molasses down, I give you numbers because you want numbers. There's a range, that's the range. 5 gallons of molasses per acre might stimulate your soil life to such a degree that they begin to eat your plant roots. You put a whole bunch of molasses down when you put your transplants in, and they will literally eat the roots off your transplants. Per acre. Little dab will do ya, right? Less is more. Err on the side of conservatism. Slow and steady wins the race. There's a bunch of more metaphors, I'm sure, but they all get to that basic point.
I think the dried molasses would be equal to the dried sugar.
Close enough. I don't know. How's that? I know nothing. Why you guys are asking me questions? You've never seen my farm. There's your problem. Suckers! A whole bunch of suckers! Reel them in! That's. I'll show you my invoice book. I'll show you the check when that comes in. That part's true. That part's true. And it's the second week in April or something. That's not bad. Yeah, yeah. And it was 8 degrees out like a week and a half ago. That was cold. And we got 6 inches of snow, but that was outside the hoop houses, not inside the hoop houses. All right. So if too much rain and the conductivity being leached out is a case of diarrhea, what happens when the sugar is stuck in a leaf and can't make it down to the roots? I call it constipation. Right? Nothing's flowing, nothing's moving, everything's backed up. So when everything's backed up, there's no food going down here, there's no food coming up here, the whole system backs up. Right? Boron deficiency is foundational in full system collapse for most crops, most years, I think. Boron deficiency. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how simple and how regular and just categorical it is. Yes?
So I do a lot of site consults, and
Yeah.
boron is not something I've been fluent in,
Yes.
and this is explaining like so many things.
It's
Yeah.
embarrassing how
So
simple.
what does somebody like me do when I've got a client who's kind of got their income on the line and they're seeing all kinds of these problems, and I'm like, okay, this is a boron problem, and I also know that boron is one of the things you need to be careful about not. So what's the safest way to do an emergency application?
So,
Does that not exist? An emergency?
Oh, it exists,
yeah, it exists.
but
Generally, boron deficiencies are, correlate with calcium deficiencies and silicon deficiencies. And so what I use in this kind of situation is, Jerry Brunetti, I keep going back to Jerry Brunetti because he was one of the brilliant elders and really unfortunately recently passed, put together a whole suite of liquid products that are in the jug, off the shelf, totally inexpensive, a quart to the acre's application rate, and he's got a liquid calcium, which is boron, silicon, and calcium with a bunch of other goodies.
It's funny because just a couple weeks ago, before I even knew about this class, I found that website trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Sorry. And just couldn't really navigate through all of what he was doing. in
You
those
can't
things.
navigate it because he was too crazy smart, and he forgot how to communicate with
linear.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he start going, boom, and he's off. He goes off to the right, oh, he's off there again. You're like, Jerry, I had a question, but he's gone, he's off. He was a brilliant individual. Jerry Brunetti.
Yeah.
Farm as Ecosystem is the book that he wrote before he passed. The calcium one with the board is called Calcentials. Farm as Ecosystem. Thinking of your farm as a whole ecosystem was the idea. Calcentials is one of them, and then the other product that he's got is called, what's it called? It was a trace element one, a trace element concentrate. Before he died, he said, I love the work that your organization is doing. I would love to make all these products available to your members, so anybody who's a member of the organization can get them at the dealer price. Full stop, end of conversation. All these liquids are available for members at dealer price. This was like a special deal because he said, what you guys are doing is entirely in line with what I want to have happen. So anyway, for what it's worth, I think that's a wonderful offer.
So if you want to
And-
sign up to be a member right now.
Reel him in. Anyway, yeah, you can make it yourself. Really, all you have to do is take your Solubor and any kind of, I personally use liquid humates. You can use humic acid, you can use fulvic acid. You basically want to be taking that trace element and you want to be buffering it. You can water it into the soil, you can apply it as a foliar spray. Foliar spray, you're talking about, a few ounces per acre. Watering into the ground, maybe a little bit more than that. You're not talking about significant application rates. Really, you want to be doing this stuff systemically. You want to be doing it in the fall. You want to be putting it into the compost pile. You don't want to be doing crisis management. You want to be doing proactive monitoring and management. You really want to be proactive about stuff as much as possible. It's really, people don't deal with stuff until they're in crisis. In many cases, for some reason, pain is our greatest teacher, but we could get to a point where we're proactive and we prevent these things systemically in the first place. Anyway, all right, I am definitely running out of time, and I'm going to push the envelope here on speed, if you guys will bear with me. Sulfur, old leaves don't turn yellow and don't drop. Anybody ever seen that on a broccoli plant, Brussels sprout, on a leek or an onion or a garlic? Bottom leaves turn yellow and sit there. Bottom leaves turn yellow and sit there. Seen that?
Daylilies do this.
What's that?
My daylilies do that, and I have low sulfur.
Bottom leaves turn yellow and sit there is a sulfur deficiency, classic sulfur deficiency.
You know, like that.
Phosphorus and nitrogen, I've got not very much here, and you guys probably can find more about those two elements in other locations, so read what you've got if you want. I'm going to move on to potassium, I've got more to offer. I think potassium is another one of the major limiting factors, another one of the critical elements that short circuits things in general through the growing